Over to you.
Thank you, Stevie. Hi, everybody. Welcome along to tonight, the last night of the week, for these regional music development panels that we're doing for First Music Contact. Tonight we are being hosted by Roscommon, so very big thanks to Rona McGrath and her team at the Roscommon Music Arts Office for this. Roscommon is the 16th county we visited during this project, so we've got 16 counties now under our belt. So that like certain teams are developing, certain ideas that kind of comes to fore, so it's great. So anyone who's been here before knows the lie of the land. At 6 o'clock, Rona will be joining us and we'll be talking through what's an offer from the Roscommon Arts Office for basically people involved in the music industry in the county. So that'll be happening at 6 o'clock. But between now and then, I am really thrilled to be joined by three fine artists. We've got Pam Connolly, we've got May Garrity, and we've got Jafaris, and they are going to basically talk about what it's like to be an artist in 2025. This is the kind of like the artistic practice side of things. It's like, I mean, how do you manage to kind of like, I mean, mix and blend the need for creativity with the need probably to make a living as well. So it's kind of like about what happens when the music business dovetails with the creativity as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by asking our three guests to introduce themselves. Starting with Pam, she's going to introduce herself, say who she is, tell you a little bit about herself, and then once they're finished talking, I'll throw some questions out, and hopefully, individually and collectively, they will carry the conversation for the hour. If you've got questions while they're talking, hold on to the questions and put them in the chat field, and there'll be time at the end for a Q&A. So, Pam, over to you.
I'm Pamela Connolly. I work primarily with the band Pillow Queens. I sing and play guitar and bass, and we've been together for about nearly 10 years now, about nine, and we've traveled quite a bit. We've like put out about three albums, and yeah, we tour quite a lot, and yeah, we've been like through Europe and America, the UK and Ireland, obviously. But yeah, we're still going. But yeah, that's primarily the work that I do. I've worked obviously in the past on different projects, but Pillow Queens is my main source of output.
Excellent stuff. Wasn't Pam, welcome on board. Appreciate you having you with us this evening. Jafaris, hello, how are you? Tell us about yourself.
What's up? It's Jafaris. My name is Percy as well, just for anyone who knows me as that. Yeah, I'm an artist. I'm an entrepreneur. Currently, I'm artist developing people in the background and also creative directing for certain artists and labels. Um, yeah, I've been doing music for about what 11 years, I would say. And yeah, I'm excited to talk to you guys and just share my experience and hopefully it helps.
Great stuff. How many records have you released over that 10 years?
I've released two EPs and one album and then some features here and there.
Excellent stuff. Wisdom, welcome on board. Great to have you for us.
Thank you very much.
BK, the microphone is yours.
Hi, everyone. I'm May Kay. I am a singer, songwriter. I present the TV show Other Voices. I was in a band called Fight Like Apes for a long time, and I was in a band called La Galaxy. And now I have been really lucky over the past few years to collaborate with some amazing Irish artists. So Elaine May, Jerry Fish, DJ Cormac, Mick Pyro. Um, and yeah, I mean, this conversation would just be completely different depending on when we have it. I'd say we all have incredibly, upsettingly varied, unpredictable lives and careers. So you got me on a good day anyway.
Excellent. How long do you think you've been in the game for?
20 years.
20 years. Okay. So all three of you are lifers then. So I want to start with a question. I want to start with a question for kind of like me for Pamela, first of all, and then for all three of you. Like when you started out kind of like making music in the first place, what were the perceptions in your head? And did they ever meet up with reality?
When I started, like I was very young, I was a teenager, so I didn't really have any perceptions really. I started in a weird way. I was I was like making music, and my dad actually put me forward towards a songwriting competition, which had me play my first show in Vicar Street. And I won that, and from that, like stuff just started happening in a more unnatural way, I'd say, in a way that I would have like I was put in positions that I would have never been put in. before. And I think maybe because I started so long young, I felt like I gave up actually very young as well. So when Pillow Queen started, I'd already kind of reconciled the fact that I was not going to do music. And then when it did, I was like, oh, okay, this is a new thing, and it it went in a trajectory that I was not used to at all. Like it kind of we started off on the ground running, and it was something I wasn't used to, or where we'd be like not seeking to be booked and then just being booked and word of mouth. And I think it was just it was very good because the time that we were doing it was just, I think, very influential. Um, but in terms of trajectory and where we ended up, I don't think I could have ever foreseen it. But as a band and as an individual as well, uh, going into it, you had like really like direct um like visions of what it could be. And when stuff started happening, you're able to like believe certain things could happen.
Mhm.
And we still feel, or I certainly still feel that like things can continue to happen. So I'm still at a point where I'm envisioning more of a future, you know?
Excellent. Okay, that's a really good answer. Jafar, it's over to you then. Like when you started out in the first place, kind of like me deciding you wanted to make beats, you wanted to kind of like you wanted to rap, you wanted to choose music. You know, who's leading the way for you? Who did you go to for kind of like when you had those questions, when you had those kind of like things you wanted to find out about? Who were the people you were hitting up for advice and for guidance?
So I'm going to be honest. When I came into the like music in general, I was just following the crowd. I was following a friend who I looked up to, and he did music. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna do music, you know. And yeah, it started off super innocent, super playful, just expressing myself. I was a very shy kid as a kid I was super shy. So music kind of allowed me to express myself without having to speak directly to people. Um, so when it came to now, of course, fast forward, I'm getting the taste of this. I'm enjoying this, and now I want this to be my life. I want this to be my career. I Again, I wasn't thinking like this when I was a kid. I was just like, I would love to do this all the time, forever, for no reason, you know. And I had nobody. There's actually nobody around me to ask, nobody that I could call and get some advice from. And I remember early days, my parents were very against me doing music because, yeah, it was just so foreign to them that I'm trying to be a rapper, and you know they wanted me to be a doctor, an engineer, or something, you know. So I remember my dad sending me a video like the truth behind the music industry, and this was supposed to like scare me away from music, but it actually informed me a lot, like on what to do and what to kind of look out for. And I kind of got into the mindset of studying the industry rather than fearing it, you know? Um, so yeah, just bit by bit, I started attracting more people who were willing to help me in my journey, from my first manager to the first people who booked me to the first people who recorded me. And yeah, along the way, I just picked up little things from everybody that I was able to implement until I was in my current situation, basically.
Excellent. Okay, excellent stuff. Make like when you started out, like was Fight Like Apes your first band, or had you been in bands before then? And like what were your kind of models? What were you aiming to do?
Um, I was aiming to not do any more college, was really just the whole thing. We just needed a hard excuse to throw a lab coat into a bin and hit the road, really. I was in I sang with a couple of people before, um, and I definitely wanted to be a singer, but I don't think I had considered it as a career. Um, my poor mum would kill me for saying this because I was raised with like Annie Lennox and, Sandy Denny and stuff. So, but I kind of thought you had to be Mariah Carey to be a singer for some reason. I don't know why, but that is how I thought of it. Um, and I think I'm so jealous hearing of Jafaris's wisdom to be studying the business, because I mean that's where it's so good these things are happening, because that's where we fell time and time and time and time again was just not knowing what we were doing. And I do think the advice was there, but we didn't seek it out as much as we should have.
Hmm.
Yeah, if I could do it again, I'd be going to a lot more of these things anyway,
Yeah.
for
Well,
sure.
why do you think you kind of didn't gravitate towards the advice or look for the advice?
I think it was just a mix of like young cockiness where we kind of thought we knew it anyway. Um, and again, this is not fair on any of our parents because we were taught to ask questions and, ask for help. But I think there was this kind of idea that the industry will like change you. I think we felt a bit if we didn't engage fully in it, we'd stay as we were.
Hmm.
But I think, I mean, now looking back and seeing the way things are now, you can absolutely, you can stay just as you are, however way you want to be, and be engaged in the business totally.
Mm. Pamela, you said like one of your first gigs was in kind of like Vicar Street, so like I mean you were in it at a very early age, At what stage did you start realizing that there was this business side of things as well? And did things change when you joined up with the others in Pillow Queens and took and suddenly realized, okay, well, we have to take things seriously here.
Yeah, 100%. I felt like I was before Pillow Queens, I was in a completely different industry. I was also like I had been going doing gigs solo and then had like from that been in a band. But we were also very young and yeah, we weren't really asking questions. We were just like existing in a scene and not really knowing what we were meant to do. It was very much in the kind of pay to play era of
Okay.
the Dublin music scene. So we were just kind of like taking things as they came and really didn't have any vision. And just feeling like we were a pinball, not like knowing that we were like creating good music, but like we weren't able to create a solid ground for that. We're just like, oh, we're just going to play the Mez like several times in 1 month. And they're not
We
being
did
like,
that too. Big up
yeah,
the mez.
yeah, I know. It's
Yeah.
like you can get if you're under 17, you're grand. You can get in, no problem. And yeah, it wasn't until that we were when we were in Pillow Queens where there just felt like a bit more of a structure there. And I think maybe it came with age, it came with each of us coming with different aspects of experience, especially when it came to Sarah, who was also in the band. She had just come out of being in a band, whereas like I had remained quiet for a couple of years, and she was kind of like tapped into that industry a little bit more than I had been previously. And she'd also like ran like a little DIY label. So when it came to Pillow Queens existing as it was, there was just a little bit more knowledge as to like where to go, who to go to, what the scene actually looked like now, rather than, before when you just, oh, there's someone who's putting on a show that's for girls that are in bands, girls rock night. We'll play that. Um, but yeah, I think we're very lucky in that like the music scene in Dublin specifically had changed quite a bit. A lot of the people working booking shows, there was a lot more passion there. There was a lot
Yeah.
more curation, rather than like we're just gonna put on a show, get people in, and it's a money game rather than like, hey, I want to see this band, get them from the from early stages and watch them grow. And I felt like that was very much the case when we started back again as Pillow Queens, where there was just a lot more passion in the scene itself.
Hmm. I think what's happened as well is that another people who are now involved in the scene stroke industry stroke business, they're coming from a different perspective. They have a totally different perspective on things. It's not like it was before. It's not kind of like almost like it's not like a career in many ways. It is that passion thing you're talking about.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's the people that we work with now, a lot of them came to us when we were like 2 or 3 shows in and coming to us with interest and kind of having a vision of us that we didn't necessarily have for ourselves just yet. Like the likes of Simon Merriman, like we met him very early on and like we're still with him now as our booker. And
Hmm.
like he came to us when, booking shows in in Workman's and stuff. And from Workman's, we'd gone to the Ivy Gardens with him and was able to like give us opportunities as the years went by. So it's kind of it's great when you're working with people who like see you before you can see yourself. Like even our first
Yeah.
manager like came to our second show and we were like while we were playing good music, we were sloppy. We were like it wasn't tight, but he saw us for what we could be and willing to put in the effort of watching us grow. And that's just, I think it's a really beautiful thing. When you can see a band at its early stages and be like, I can envision something before they can.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's the thing that like there's kind of informal there was always informal advice out there as well. So people like that, like talking about Simon and stuff, when you kind of there's a lot of informal advice available. And those people that are like make themselves available to you are just like the making or breaking of you, you know? It's really incredible to have a booker like that. I never really knew how important a booker was, to be honest. But that, yeah, we kind of had similar things happen too, where, and we tried as best we could to remain as loyal as we could to those people as well, because it must be a tough thing to be that guy, and then you know bigger fish comes in or something. But like, there's so many incredibly generous people who do want to see the business, the industry itself thrive. Um, and yeah, that's just yeah,
Yeah.
they're amazing people.
Yeah. Jafar's like, I mean, Pamela said something there very interesting about kind of like, the early days of the gigs and kind of like, the fact that things were sloppy and you were getting to know what you're about and you had other people kind of like, I suppose, telling you what to, like, not telling you what to do, but just kind of giving you tips and guidance. Do you want to talk us a little bit about your artistic development at that stage? Like, after you watch your video on kind of like how to get arrested in the music industry or wherever it was, and you kind of go, okay, this is stuff I need to know about. I know about this. But when it comes to actual kind of like, I mean, writing the tracks, recording the tracks,
Mm.
playing a show, talk us about like looking back now, what were the mistakes you made back then? What were the kind of like the mistakes you'd like anyone on this call not to do again?
So before I even answer that, I know May Kay said she was jealous of me taking up all this wisdom and stuff. Like after I watched that video, I literally threw it out the bin. Like as in I didn't care about the business. Do you get me? I just cared about creating and that was it. And it just so happened that there was talent, there was a bit of talent there, and there was just so much like obsession over what I was doing that I did progress, and of course, yeah, I attracted people who were willing to help and stuff. But to answer your question, um, I think having fun with it, and I know that sounds so simple, but like actually enjoying what you're doing and not thinking about the results, not thinking about who's gonna see it, when are they gonna see it, how many people are gonna see it, like that was a huge driving force as to why I think people were attracted to what I was doing and were willing to even help and add their 2 cents to anything, is because they could feel the energy behind it. And it wasn't just me, it was the people that I was around. All of my friends who were also learning how to play guitar, learning how to play drums. We were just enjoying the process. And one thing I learned along the way, and I was kind of proud when I would start learning it, was just the songwriting aspect of it. I'm coming from a rap background, which is also super heavy on like poetry, and that can be super wordy. It can be just you're just saying a lot of things and making yourself sound super philosophical sometimes. And along the way, a lot of people would tell me or teach me how to simplify things, or teach me how to be more relatable, or teach me how to say things in a manner that more people would take in, more universal rather than it being super niche. um and in your artist development phase, being okay with criticism, or yeah, feedback or opinions, it can be super like daunting or challenging, especially if you're sensitive, which most artists are sensitive. It's easy to get like discouraged when people don't like the first thing you show them, or they don't like the thing you've been obsessed with for the last 6 months. um so I think that's something I had to learn very quickly. My brother was very very blunt with me, and he has a very good ear for music. So, um, he was always telling me, "Yeah, that's just not good." Like he would, sometimes he wouldn't know why. He just knew that that's not good, or that's not you, or you know. And one thing I kind of tell artists now is if you get upset, like if you get upset that somebody doesn't like your music, it's kind of a telltale sign that you already have some sort of disconnect or some sort of inkling that this is not the one, or this is not that great, or this is not really me, because I think moments that come where somebody says they don't like it and you push back on like a no, you just don't get it. That's you, that's your song. You maybe it'll take time for them to understand it or whatever the case, but yeah, just taking in criticism, taking in feedback, um, and yeah, just being open to understand. Because one thing I look at, well, I was looking at a lot when I was coming up is does my song or does my music fare well to what's out there, like what I listen to. So if I have a Spotify playlist, does my music sit well on this playlist? Does it sound like it stands out too much? And obviously then you start getting into a mindset of like, is this mixed well, is it mastered well,
Yeah.
and all these things. But um just having that sort of mindset um changes a lot in terms of where you're trying to go as an artist. But I know I'm rambling, but to really, really answer your question now that I've thought about it, is like I needed what I didn't know then, which I know now, is I needed to know why I was doing it. I needed to know what am I in this for. That's bigger than just music, and that's bigger than money and fame and stuff. Like, what is it that makes me come to the studio every day and traveling from Newbridge all the way to wherever I'm going just to make a song, for a couple of hours? Knowing your why will always inform your what, when, who, how, because if you don't know that, then you're kind of just you'll be very quickly disappointed in the music industry in Ireland in its growing phase. You'll be very disappointed and you'll be very discouraged in a manner that it'll kind of stop you in your tracks. This is not really like an easy industry to be in. It's
Hmm.
not that is going to give you any returns anytime soon. You have to kind of stick with it, and the only way that I've found to really stick with it, even when it's challenging, is just to remember why you're doing it. What is this for? And I didn't have that for a long time. I was just going with the flow and just having fun with it. Um, which is great for a while, but then when real stakes are in play, you kind of need to know what you're standing on.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. There's two things that Jafar said there, MK, that I want to kind of bring up with you. And one was that thing at the start about the element of fun, the element of having the crack, like and enjoying it. I remember seeing Fight Like Ace back in the early days. I don't know what gig it was. It's early on, and I don't think I'd seen a bunch of musicians have as much fun on stage in years. It was fantastic. Like obviously you were this was a kind of a reason to keep doing it, but at what stage does it kind of like that you have to remember you're having fun? And is that when the problems set in?
Yeah, we had a lot of fun, um, which yeah, I don't really have regrets. We had a great career, so there's no, I don't have regrets, but at the same time, it is just interesting reflecting on it and thinking like it's such a good point to try and remember what you're doing. What is it that I was setting out to do? And again, it's so true that like if someone criticizes something, but you think it's amazing, the criticism just bounces off you. So it's very accurate to say that like I don't think we took criticism well at all. I mean, as a character choice, I don't think we engaged with it at all. But I would have liked if we had taken more input from industry people on the business end of things. I don't think we swayed too much from what we wanted to do creatively, but I wish we just had wiser heads on our shoulders then
Mm.
for what it takes. Because as Jafaris is saying, like how anybody would be in this business if it's not for the love of the music it's not, I don't know what you would be doing here. It's
Yeah.
just, it's certainly not for the money. It's not for the security. It's not for so even I think one thing we did that I'm really was always proud of us for was that we put on the same show if there was one person in the room or 1,000 people in the room. Um, and that I think now we obviously all want to skip corners and things and skip steps and jump to the next one without having to go through it, but you can't do it that way. So I really feel so strongly about, gigging as much as you can, writing as much as you can, learning as much as you can. And I think by gigging with other bands, like that's the probably the best way to do it is learning from other people. I remember doing a gig with the Franklin Walters years ago, and I got to sit down with the singer and just ask him about writing songs, and I learned more from him in the hour I was talking to him than I think I had up to that point.
Mm.
From these really simple things, I mean, I think it improved my writing so much from talking to him. So um, I know
And,
that we
and
say
was it,
this.
well, so sorry, Mickey, was the advice he was giving you, was it technical or was it sort of like, encouragement or was it something else?
It was both, and it was really simple and really funny. And it was just, I was telling him I was stuck on something, and he was just talking about like little things he does to push through those things, like create a character rather than speaking from the first person. If you're finding a block somewhere, like find a way to get around it. Which is a prolific artist. There's tips and things that you kind of think, and when you're naive and romantic about it all, when you're really young, it can feel like it has to come from me, it has to be true and real, otherwise it's not right. And I just think that's not always the case. If you need to be putting out tunes a lot, there's stuff to be learned there on how to break through those walls that you hit regularly.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I think asking other people for advice is, yeah, priceless.
Right. Pamela, like my case, they're talking about like getting some help and getting some advice from Franklin Walters, and like one of the things that's coming up on this whole project that we're doing is like what artists want, and it seems that artists want something like what we're providing right now, these professional development courses, and one thing that come up as well is mentoring, and like like the importance of mentoring. Is that something that like for you as an artist that has been important, or has there been someone along the way who's been a mentor to you in terms of kind of like someone you can go to with those kind of like those twisty questions or those bits of questions you don't, or someone you want to say the quiet part out loud to?
100%. And we still do it now. Like the start of the year, like we had several meetings with people that we just wanted to pick their brain about, where we are going or what they think about certain things. And we touch base with people that we trust their opinions on a quite a regular basis. When, we feel like we're at a crossroads or don't know. It's not necessarily something that we only utilized when we were a young band. Like we still do it now and we will continue to do it going forward
Mm.
because it's so important to just like have a little bit of an outside perspective of someone that you trust their knowledge, or at the very least, even if it's something that you don't necessarily want to do, or what they're saying is like, okay, well that I get that, but it's not where we're going to go. But to know to at the very least have that outside perspective, because especially when you're in a band, you get you and I'd assume as well as a solo act, like there is a hive mind kind of situation going on, and you tend to kind of like work as a one machine rather than individual voices, which is great when you're like making music. Um, but when it comes to, hey, what should we do here? We kind of come up with one individual idea, and you need outside opinions. And yeah, we on a regular basis we do like touch base with a lot of people that we've worked with. Like we, even if it's not their like remit per se. So like we occasionally like have just meetings with bookers that have nothing to do with booking per se. We're just like,
Yes.
we just want to pick your brain about the industry in general because they are in a position where they know a lot and they know it from a certain perspective, not the perspective of the artist itself. So yeah, we do the same things with like our like artist solicitor. or like our or just people generally that we know that work in the industry and other acts as well. It's a great thing to do, like as an artist, to build that community. Like even if it's not necessarily people that you're directly working with, but like have relationships with that you're able to just be like, hey, can you put aside like 45 minutes to just have like a chit chat? Because we just have some questions and we'd love to get your opinion on it.
Mm.
Um,
And did you find as well, Pamela, when you were putting together this kind of kitchen cabinet? Obviously, now a couple of years down the road, you know who the good people are. At the start, were there some people that you took into your confidence that you kind of looking back now, kind of go like they were the wrong fit for us? Because this is something people never talk about. We always say ask questions, ask advice, but sometimes you kind of wonder, should there also be a bit of a circuit where people are saying, stay away from your man. He's an absolute fucking idiot. You know what I mean? Like that side of things as well.
we've been very lucky, I think, as the Pillow Queens entity. I think everybody that we have worked with, even if we don't work with them anymore, we generally have always had good relationships with, and if we've had to move on, we've had to move on. I think it's quite lucky that we've been like, we don't, it could be great if we had that kind of like, don't work with them, kind of attitude, so we could warn people, but we have been incredibly lucky in the past of just working with good people. And if stuff wasn't a right fit, it wasn't because they were not good at their job. It just didn't work out. Um, but it is like of huge importance because you also, you get those insights from other artists and people in the industry that do like, hey, maybe veer away from going in that direction. And it's really it's like crucial information. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
That's great. That's great. Let's kind of move, like we've been talking an awful lot about kind of like maybe the artistic practice, artistic side of it, the creativity, getting your kind of like creative juices flowing. Let's start with Juju Farms. Let's turn kind of like to the fact that he's a business, and in order and businesses mean you have to make a living from it, make some money from it. What have you found out, and what have you kind of learned about the industry from the kind of like making a living aspect? How difficult has it been? Has it been as hard as you or as easy as you thought? And has it surprised you some of the ways you've made money from your music over the last couple of years?
Um, I just want to say you're actually very, very good at this, Jim. This is amazing the way you ask. Very
It's a therapy session, Faris.
It
when like I said, when I started, I wasn't thinking about money. I wasn't thinking about these things. Which in a weird way, I think is what attracted it. Like I wasn't looking for it, so it just came by itself. But I again, I'm the lucky ones. A lot of my came up to me didn't have that same experience. Um, I think what Pamela said and Mickey said about having a team and having people around you, that was like the biggest game changer. Having people that were able to think for the money for you was what changed it for me. I was just privileged enough to just be allowed to be an artist and not think about who's spending what money and where's the money coming from and going, which is a mistake, by the way. As an artist, you need to know where the money's coming from and where it's going. Um, but yeah, as I was a kid, so I didn't really care. Um, it came easy for me. It didn't come easy for everybody. And that's the thing I feel like I've really learned about the industry is that it is a one percenters game. Like if we're really being honest about it. So it's not everybody who's going to be successful from it. And it's not everybody who's going to make a good living from it either. So understanding your business and being okay with how long it's going to take to even make a substantial living from it is something I think new artists should get into their head immediately. This is a long game. And yeah, making money, like there's so many ways to make money in music when it works. You'll get it
Yes.
from streaming, you'll get it from shows, you'll get it from merch, you'll get it from brand deals, sponsorships, publishing deals, record deal. Like there's so many ways to make money. It's just you have to be the attention, and then people will pay you. Somebody said this to me before. It's like when you don't have capital, you have to create cultural capital. That way people care enough to even put money into you. Um, and if you're thinking in that manner, then you have to think as a business and as a brand. And a brand is something that is very specific, very what can I say? A brand is usually very specific, very consistent, and it knows exactly who it's targeting. You know, when artists say, I want everybody to listen to my music, of course, we all want everybody to listen to our music, but when you start out, you need to know who exactly should be listening to your music right now, and
Mhm.
they become your word of mouth. They become your reference, you know. I think when you go in thinking, oh, everybody's gonna love my music, but you make rock music and that means other people don't like rock music, you need to know that, okay, I'm not talking to the people who like rap music or just like Afro beats or whatever, you know. And not to say that you can't convert those people, but you need to know that I'm talking to the people who specifically like rock music today. And those people, I need to make sure they love my music so much that when they stop listening to it, they're gonna tell somebody to go listen to it, you know. Um, yeah, and then that spirals into people being super fans, and they're the people who are going to spend money on whatever you're selling them as an artist. Um, yeah, it is a long game, and you need to
Yeah.
again understanding why you're doing it will inform all of those decisions, what it looks like, what it sounds like, who it's going to, when it should go to them, you know. Yeah, I don't know if that
Okay.
answers your
No,
question.
that does a long game. That's a good line to take out of that one. Make like this, like what your farmer's just been talking about there about the long game and going things are true from the business point of view. Like you said earlier on, you've been doing this for 20 years, so you've had ups and downs along the way. What from the business point of view, what's the thing you've learned the most? If you were to kind of give advice to participants here tonight, like in terms of that business side, what would it be?
I think it is that to see it as a business, and that doesn't need to encroach on your creativity, but it is a business. It's a startup, you know. If you're starting with your music, you have to, yeah, you have to know what you have. You unless you've got loads of money from something else, you do have to, like Jafaris is saying, be really targeted in what you're doing because if money is a factor, or which affects everything, you're not going to be able to blanket charm everyone. You need to get into the places that you should be in. Um, I think I've said it before, but like getting in touch with other musicians and knowing that they will, at least the genre you're doing will suit them. Um, Creating those relationships early on. Um, Most bands, if they're in a position to do this, want to give another band a leg up. Um, from whatever stage they are, if they're a bit ahead of them, you want to give someone a chance that might be a bit below where you are at that time. And those things are just really incredibly important. And yeah, I think I wish I had thought of it more like a normal business. I mean, it's a strange business and it can be very unpredictable, but it's a business the same way anything else is, you know, and it
Mhm.
needs to be treated that way. So there needs to be plans, there needs to be communication, there needs to be, progress plans. Where do you want? I mean, it's the worst question in the world for someone to ask is like, where do you see yourself in 5 years, or where do you see yourself in a year? But it's just because it's really hard to answer.
Possible to answer, but
Yeah.
it's a way of kind of like steering the traffic. It's a way of
Yeah,
kind of like.
totally. And it makes things easier. Totally.
Okay. So the other question for you then in terms of business side of things, I mean, you've diversified. I mean, you're presenting other voices, you're doing other projects, things like that. Has that been a big aid to you in terms of creativity? The fact that there's something else going on that when it becomes time to be creative, to write songs, to do that okay, I may not have as much time to do that, so I have to be 100% behind this now.
That has been the case, and it has also been the opposite. That being an artist is tough, and it's incredibly it's so vulnerable. You're in such a vulnerable position when you're creating stuff that's didn't exist before you created it, and then you're going to the world and saying, "I hope you like me," kind of thing.
Mm.
Um, So I've had times when the other voices stuff seems so much easier than the music than my own music. that sometimes it's made me be like, oh, I can just focus more on the other stuff. And I wish I'd like to balance that a lot more. I'm trying this year to balance that a lot more, where I again treat it like a business and set aside time to write and write through all the shit songs you're going to write. And I've written some amount of shit songs, but that I'm taken to understand that that's necessary, I think. So, but yeah, I mean, really actually carving out that time, like it's really important. And it's not even business aside, if art is in your soul, you have to feed that. And as Jafaris and Pam I know would say as well, like the rest will follow. But it has to start there. Like the business or the creativity, it has to be rooted in what it is that makes you tick. The rest would make more sense then, I think.
Right. Question for you, Pamela, and like we're coming to the end of it. As always on these things, the time goes very, very fast. Question for you, Pamela, like in Pill Queens, there's four of you, right? Do you divide up your business duties? Do one of you look after kind of like probably called publishing? One of you look after kind of like the arts? One of you look after kind of like the management stuff? Like for example, like Sarah's been on to me, but like she's working with some other acts as well at the moment. It looks like from a management point of view. So is she your kind of de facto manager? Does it break down like that?
Yeah, certainly, especially over the last few years. So we've had points in which we were managing ourselves, and our responsibilities have changed over that time because there's just certain just general like admin things that come in, or like merch orders, or the wider aspect of Pillow Queens was is when we were managing ourselves, like having to take the meetings with like publishing and take the meetings. With labels and stuff. And I think we've learned a lot from the time in which we were managing ourselves, how much we do want to be involved with the like the background. We have a manager now, thank God. Because as a band you do want to focus as
Mm.
much as you can on the creative side. But we've experienced both sides of the coin in which where we would be so focused on the creative side and then not really know what's going on in the background. And that's not a great way to be. And then also the other side where it's like you're actually so bogged down by the working in the admin and the like the business side of things that you're not focusing enough on the creativity, and you kind of have to balance both because it's not good either way to be leaning too harsh. That like yes, be creative, but be fully aware of like what's going on, who your contacts are. Like no, like you don't need to know your contracts off by heart, but like you need to know at least where to find them, or like oh, who to speak to about this. It is great to have to put that responsibility onto an outside source, but like one thing that we really benefited from is um through the years of having different management be like there's certain things that we just want to be CC'd on, or like if we could also just have a meeting with that publisher or that booker, just so we can have a personal relationship as well, but then be distant enough that we're not the ones getting the no's. We still need to keep our egos in check. Um, yeah.
Okay, last question for me before we get some questions from the audience. And thank you so much to all three of you for your generosity and for your openness as well. And what I want from each one of you, starting with Jafaris, like, can you just tell me about one moment that you look back on? One moment you look back on in your on your career that keeps you going. That moment, it could be a song you've written that just go, I'm never going to better that. It could be a gig. It could be just a connection with someone. Well, like everyone. We've talked a lot about the business. We've talked an awful lot about like just keeping the artistic thing, keep the hardness, the harshness sometimes, and the difficulty of keeping on. But there's always moments. There's always moments for all those that we look back on, especially as creatives, as you are creative. So you look back on a moment. So starting with your Faris, what's the moment you look back on and go, yeah, that's the keeper. That's the one I keep going back to.
Um, I would say, well, fast forward now, I kind of know my why, is like why I'm doing all of this, and but it's always been there. It's just I never knew or I never could articulate it. But I do have this like obsession with people. I know that sounds weird, but like I just love people. I love talking to people. I love getting to know people. I love just figuring out why people do what they do or think the way they think. And music has been the one thing that has brought me in front of so many people, you know. And when I hear there was this show that I did in Cork. It was a very small show. It was on my first like Irish tour. And this girl came to me and she was crying uncontrollably, like just like, oh wow, you're so amazing, blah. And that's strange to me because I would never act like that for somebody else. But like that was strange to me, and just her feedback on the music and how it touched her in these like low moments in her life, just that was like a real checkpoint moment for me. And just to know like, wow, even that song that I thought wasn't great and that I'm tired of now actually saved somebody or like did something for somebody, you know. And yeah, just those type of moments are the things that kind of stick with me the most, you know.
Super. Thank you, Jafaris. Make, same question to you. Some a moment, a hook, a song that you go back to and it keeps you keeping on in those dark nights.
Yeah, th and those things seem to happen right when you need them the most, that someone will tell you that like they were going through the worst year of their life and that your music helped them. And that actually is still incredibly hard to comprehend. Even though we all have artists that have done that for us, it's incredibly hard to absorb that you might be that powerful for somebody else. We when we played Reading Festival years ago, I remember just I we were so cocky that like it was rare for us to be like dumbfounded with surprise at something, but it was just a full tent at Reading, and I recognized some people that I was like, she was like the only person we played to in Leeds, and there'd be
Yeah.
other people there that like you'd remember, and it was like all that shit paid off, all those times that you felt like, what are we doing, and it's kind of embarrassing, and like it's just not for us. It was like, okay, it worked. And it's like, it's the long game. When you see the long game start to pay off, it is what an incredible feeling.
Excellent. Thank you, Make. Pamela, last word on this one to you.
For me, it was a show that we did, our first Vicar Street show. We'd sold it out, and it was one in which we had to push because of COVID. So it was like, the first time we were in at the show that people had been waiting for actually quite a few years at that point. And I think it was the first night of it. And it was just a room full of people, but the fact that I knew obviously my family were there, but there was people there from like who were part of my life years previously, who I hadn't spoken to in years, and I could pick them out in the crowd. And I just was just like, oh my God, I haven't seen that person in years, and they're at this show. And then like seeing someone else, and it was just a really magical moment. And it was probably one of the first times in the band where I like you felt like you could scoop a whole crowd up, and you literally had them in the palm of your hand. And we've been very lucky in the past. I always feel like the crowds at our shows always root for us, but it was just such a drastic version of that, of like the culmination of people, and to be sprinkled with people who've had different roles in your life throughout the years. And it was very much like this is your life kind of scenario. Thought your man was going to come out with the red book. I was like, this is crazy. But yeah, that was probably one of the moments I always look back at, where you're just like, oh wow, look at what we've done, you know.
Great. Thank you very much, Pamela. Um, that's the conversation with the three artists. That's my questions for now. Does anyone on the call have calls or have questions for either Jafaris, for Pamela, or from AK? Now's the time to unmute yourself and ask the question, or put the question in the chat field and I'll read it out there. Like I could keep talking for another hour to these three amazing people, but like this is your night. So if you have questions, please do unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hi, everybody.
Hi Ola, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. My name is Ola Gerard, and I'm an Afro pop artist. Started my music career back in 2019, and it's been fun, and it's been a whole lot of different emotion. Crazy. I love what Jeffrey said about you being a business and the different ways to make money, like through streamings, brand deals, and stuff. But my question is, what content should you put out there as as an artist? Is it just music related content? Or because I'm a really introverted person. I don't like really putting my personal life out there, but music kind of bring me out of my shell to be an introvert. So like, am I playing it too safe, just putting music content out there, or what content should I be putting out there to attract brand deals and all that stuff?
That's a great question. And I before I would answer that question, I would actually ask you a couple of questions, you know. I would ask you, and you can write these questions down for yourself. Like I would ask you why you're doing it and what your message is and how you want to be perceived. Those are just three out of maybe 10 more questions I would have for you. But and also who are you talking to in this music? Like who's this message for, right? And once you kind of solidify those questions, it is then a bit easier to direct your business, direct your brand towards those. Like it's just positioning in this, just putting yourself in a position that you want to be seen by the specific people that you want to see you, you know. Um I know it's in 2025, you have to kind of do the TikTok thing and the Instagram thing or whatever, but you can do it your way. You know, you don't have to like do the dances and do all the stuff that other people do. You can literally show your personality in your music and through your visuals as well. Yeah, it just depends on the type of music you're making and what type of content that requires. Sometimes people do the really mainstream music that does require the sort of, I guess, cheesier approach or the more universal approach, or maybe you're making super niche music that requires you to be a bit more mysterious or a bit more authentic to who you are. Um, but yeah, I would definitely like ask a lot more questions to clarify that answer, but that's how I can answer that right now. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, that helps. My next question is, since I started my music career in 2019, I've released like 20 something songs now, and I'm currently in the process of releasing a EP. And I have no idea what I'm doing because this is my first EP. Do you get me? I feel like this is the next step for me. But when you released your first EP, what were the mistakes you did, and what advice would you give me in releasing an EP?
This will be your first EP, right?
First EP, yeah.
And when you release like singles, what's the feedback that you're getting? Is it consistent? Is it like and no, are you
Yeah,
happy with the feedback?
yeah, I am. I am. I have direct messages and streams that I know. Like there was a point where sometimes to even get to 100 streams takes like maybe months or so. Like with sometimes within a day now, I get 100 streams and I've gotten to 10K. Do you get me like that? But there's been growth,
Yeah,
continuous growth from it. Yeah.
lovely. And okay, I would, you know what? My advice usually is to continue dropping singles until there's a lot of demand for an EP, you know, because you drop an EP, you put a lot of time, effort, money into making a body of work that just gets thrown into the void, you know, like especially when you don't have a marketing budget and like all these PR connections and stuff, you're kind of just putting your music out there and hoping that people hear it, you know. So I would put a lot of that energy still into like releasing singles, you know. I would, and once the single starts doing extremely well, build on that momentum before you actually drop an EP. But you know, it is all relative at the same time. Like if you just want to release it just to experience what that's like,
Exactly.
yeah, I would go and use that as my I'm gonna make mistakes in this period of time. I'm gonna figure out what to do, what not to do for the next one. Just know that like you've put time, energy, money, all these things into it. You need to know, okay, I'll be okay if I make all my mistakes after spending all of this time, money, energy into this, you know. But to answer your question about my mistakes, um my when I first dropped a project, it was very premature. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know anything about branding, but that was a different time. That was a complete like this was 10 years ago. So there was no TikTok. There was no like having to do a specific thing on Instagram, you know. It was Facebook. And 100 likes on Facebook was like a million views or a million streams at the time. So it is a bit hard to like compare mistakes and things that we did versus what you can do now. But um yeah, I would say just keep focusing on dropping singles until you've built up a little bit more of a demand, and then yeah.
True.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Jafaris, and thanks for the question, Ola. There's a comment in here from JM Tierney. Jafaris is the most quotable person ever. So that's one for your wall, Jafaris. Question here from Eve, and this will be the last question for the evening because I need to get on to the next thing. Question from Eve. Hi Eve, how are you? And basically, she would like to hear the artist's perspective. When it comes to curating your team around you, do you seek out people or would you let them approach you? Make hay.
Well, I mean, it would be great if we were being approached all the time by people, obviously. So I would think without a shadow of a doubt, approach people. And that can be anything. Like I heard Gemma Levy talking about this recently, that she was laughing at herself because someone quoted her back talking about her team. And she was like, it's my mom. Like, it's my mom is like, people keep talking about this, like, thing. But she was like, I'm talking about my mom and my mates, that can be enough. It's like your own little board of directors, that you can kind of, and again, you'll make the ultimate decisions on things. But if you have a couple of people that you say, like when you're kind of demoing something, that's the person you say, would you just have a listen to this for me? Let me know what you think. That's your team, you know? And it's always great to have that. And that can be family, it can be friends, it can be, as Jim is talking about, mentorship. If there's an artist you like, or if it's any of us, and if you were working on something or you've released something and say, like, would you let me know what you think of this? Again, we're only giving you our opinion and it shouldn't change your life. But I think that, and Pam, maybe you'll agree with that, but I think that's what we're talking about at that initial team is going to be made up of friends and peers in the business, and definitely approach anybody that you want to. The worst thing that could happen is they won't get back to you and there's nothing lost there at all.
Cool, thank you.
Same question to you, Pamela.
Yeah, I mean, we're still at a point in our career where we're still approaching people, and we've had a lot of like change ups in our management over the years, and we found it like really helpful that like we were able to approach people that we were working with, being like, hey, can you put feelers out to people who are like looking to manage bands? Or we've also changed booking agent, and we were doing the same thing, like asking the likes of Simon Merriman, being like, do you know of any like booking agents that would be like a good fit for us? So we're constantly approaching people as well, and having people approach people on behalf of us. Certainly in the beginning, it was a case of like maybe one person approaching you, and they were able to kind of build like almost a team around you. Um, but at the same time, we were like seeking out people to have meetings with. And again, yeah, you'd be messaging people and they might never get back to you, but at the very least, like your name would pop up, you know. So you'd be on the tip of their tongue, or at least they'd remember you in some way. But yeah, we still approach people, or at least like ask people's advice in terms of like, do you have any ideas of like people we could go to for this or go to for that? I think if we were just sitting around waiting for people to come to us, we'd be waiting a very, very long time, because while obviously we're confident in our music, and we're very proud of ourselves, we are a drop in the ocean when it comes to the music industry. So there you still have to be proactive. And I think the moment that you kind of rest on your laurels is when maybe things start to slow down. But yeah, approaching people is still very much something that Pillow Queens do, at least.
Great.
Cool, thank you
Same
guys.
question. Same question, just Jafar. Are you still kind of like, seeking people, or do you wait for people to approach you? Aside from your brother, of course, who basically didn't probably need any invitation to tell you what he thought.
Yeah. Of anyone I've ever seeked in my journey, they kind of left along the way, you know, and that was due to me not maybe being able to articulate my vision clearly enough. So I would say, like, because there's no one way to do it, whether you approach people or they approach you, just make sure that your vision is clear and that they match your vision as well, or they can aid to your vision, you know. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Well, we're this is the first one that's ran over, Stevie. So it's a good one to run over on. So I really, really appreciate the fact that the three of you, Pamela, Jafaris, and May Kay, have been so generous with your time, with your insights and your thoughts of the last hour. So big round of applause for you. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Jim,
We'll
just
see you down the road.
just before everyone, just before
Stevie.
you lose you guys, I just wanted to say, Ola's question made me think of it. You can book in, anyone here can book in a free consultation with First Music Contact as well. So you can have a chat about your plans, about your release plans. There's a link in the chat there to where you can book a call. It's open to everyone. Every day in the office, we get people just calling on the phone, just saying, hey, can I get some advice about this or that? So it's a free resource there. It's open to all artists. So it's there if you ever need us.
Thank you very much, Stevie. And Jafaris, Pamela, and May Kay, I owe you one. We'll see you down the road. Thank you very much.
Thanks a million.